Hello, boys and girls, Mr. Rivera. Today we're going to be talking about perspective. So before we talk about it, I just want to show you guys a picture. So if we see, here is a photograph of two cats. And so my question to you would be, which cat is larger? You think it's the cat in front or the cat in back? So just ask yourself this question and think to yourself, which cat is larger? Okay, so let me tell you which cat is larger. The fact is, it is the same cat. So even though he looks smaller in the back, the cat is still the same size. So this is what perspective is. Perspective means that something that's far away will appear smaller. Okay, so this is kind of a trick that our eye plays on us. It's why when we look at things from a distance, such as tall buildings, they don't look as big until you get closer to them. So this is something that we want to try to apply in our drawings. Okay, so here is a good example of perspective. So if we look at the train tracks, it almost looks like the train tracks meet at the very top there, but if we were to continue walking on the tracks, we would never reach that point. So even though it looks like it, the train tracks never actually touch each other. Okay, so when we are looking at images that show perspective, we always view two things. One thing is the horizon line, so that's where it appears that the sky and the ground are touching. And the vanishing point, which is the point where items seem to disappear. So that little red dot. And then we notice that the objects, the train tracks, go towards that. So even though train tracks are parallel, which means that they never touch, they're just side by side, it appears that they are getting closer and closer together. Okay, so I want to show you guys a couple more examples. So if we look over here, we can see that the horizon line is right above where the vanishing point is. So if we look at the train tracks, if we look at the wires, they all meet right here in the center. So that tells us that it's our vanishing point. And then also, it looks like where the sky is touching the road. Okay, here's one that's a little trickier. So if we look at all the trees, we notice that they get smaller and smaller and smaller, as well as the sidewalk. So that tells us that our vanishing point is off to the side here. And the horizon line, it's kind of hard to see, but it's right next to it. Okay, and last example, we could see the horizon line is very visible. So we could see the sky, the ground, and the vanishing point is right in the middle of the picture because the lines on the road all point to that same spot. Okay, so perspective, oddly enough, it took a very long time for artists to figure out. In ancient times, they would draw things without perspective. If we look at the picture on the left, we see the priest is very, very large, even though he's on top of the tower. And these people are smaller than the ones over here. So what that tells us is that the larger you were, the more important you were. Same with this Egyptian picture. You could see that these aren't children, these are servants, but because they weren't as important as these people, or weren't considered, they draw them smaller. Now, eventually they figured it out a couple hundred years ago. The picture on the left is one of the first examples that shows perspective. And you could tell that, especially with the people, you could see the people in the front are big, the people behind them are medium size, and then all the way in the back, we see little tiny people. So we want to keep that in mind when we do our drawing today. Okay, so just a couple more examples. We can see in this painting, the man closest to us is the largest, and the other painters get smaller and smaller. Same with this one. So to figure out which boy is closest to us, we would look at their sizes. So if I'm looking, I see that this boy looks the largest. Meanwhile, these kids are further away and look smaller. Okay, so what you are going to do today is you're going to create a drawing that shows perspective. So I'm going to show you guys a quick example. And the thing that I am looking for is that the objects that are closest to us are going to look larger than the objects that are further away. So if we look at the picture here, the trees, we see that these trees are closest to us because they're the biggest. And then the trees all the way in the back are the smallest, which tells us they're further away.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you guys how to draw your picture using perspective. So you can hold your paper this way, or you can hold it this way. I'm going to hold it this way for today. So first thing I want to do is I want to draw my horizon line. That is where the sky appears to touch the ground. You can do it right in the middle of your paper. So there's my straight line. I'm also going to put a dot. This is going to be my vanishing point. So I want to draw a road in the middle, and so the sides of the road are going to meet there. So what you're going to do is with this, you're going to draw a triangle essentially. So one line here, and now I have my road. I'm going to draw some lines. So I'm going to draw a big line, and each line is getting smaller, so I'm just adding little dots. Okay, the background, I want to draw some mountains. I'm going to add some peaks, some snow at the top. So that tells us that these are very tall mountains. Okay, so now is where we want to show our perspective. So what you guys draw is up to you, but the big rule is that you are making the objects closest to us. So down here, right here should be bigger than things that I draw over here. So I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to draw a tree. So to draw a simple tree, you could draw a rectangle, and then almost like you're drawing a cloud. Now I'm going to draw another tree over here. It's going to be a little smaller. And finally my tree all the way over here. So you can see how the size gets smaller. Okay, this side I'm going to draw a house. And then here is a smaller house. And finally my tiniest house. Okay, so that's pretty much it. When you are finished drawing your picture, so remember, you want to make sure that you're showing at least two things that are going from big to small. You want to make sure that you color it in, and you want to make sure that you turn this in by Friday at 3 o'clock at the latest. So you have an entire week to work on this. My suggestion is get it done today, get it out of the way, and make sure that you upload a picture of your finished work to Google Classroom. If you have any questions, I am available for office hours pretty much every day of the week. Just check on your Google Classroom stream to see what hours, office hours are for your grade.